Money Daily starts right now. South Africa's national carrier is set to resume operations on Thursday after more than 15 months of being grounded due to viability challenges despite numerous government bailouts. Ticket sales resume from Johannesburg to Cape Town, Accra and Maputo. Now, it has been a turbulent ride for African Airlines since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. The International Air Transport Association, IATA, projected a net industry loss of, get this, $47.7 billion in April this year, with the sector having reported a $2 billion nosedive in revenues in 2020 due to low passenger numbers. While IATA says that Africa's aviation sector is unlikely to recover to pre-pandemic until 2023, airline executives in the continent are advocating for more collaboration with the sector for long-term sustainability. Now, earlier on, I had a chat with Sean Mendes, an aviation consultant based in Malawi, and I started by asking him whether South African Airways is out of the woods.
I think that no airline is really out of the woods right now. I think there's really should be a question whether there is a need for state-owned national carriers at all.
There's been a push to revive state-owned airlines in Africa, but this is yet to fully take off. What has been the challenge?
National airlines in Africa have largely had basket cases for business cases even before the pandemic. They've now become almost totally reliant on state aid to survive, and state treasuries themselves are being stressed by pandemic-related expenditures. When a shareholder is the state, it's not always possible for an airline to operate, well, commercially, and it has conflicting priorities. The rare ones that are successful are the ones where the state is merely the shareholder and the airline is allowed to be run by professional management. And Ethiopian Airlines is probably one of the only examples of this model successfully working in Africa.
There have been calls to have African airlines consolidate for long-term sustainability. Is this the way to go?
I don't think so. I think the way to go in Africa is for private sector to have a larger role in the African industry. If you look at recent history, the strongest performing African airlines in the pandemic, like Airlink in South Africa, Africa World Airlines in Ghana, ASKA in Togo, these are private sector operators. Even the state-owned carriers, which are growing and sometimes perceived as successful, are only doing so because of huge subsidies from their government. And how long is this sustainable? Someone like Rwandair, which received $143 million subsidy in 2019, which is almost 5% of the national budget of Rwanda. How long can they afford to spend that kind of money on a vanity project? When you consolidate these airlines, you're simply bringing more inefficiencies across a multinational platform. And, that means more spending essentially on these loss-making entities.
So the pandemic has had a huge impact on the travel industry. What is the outlook for the sector?
African traffic dropped 66% in 2020, which is high, but still relatively lower than the rest of the world. And Africa didn't have the luxury to wait for vaccines to open up. And so Africa opened up by the end of 2020, around 40 countries, I believe, using a pre and post-flight testing regime. And those protocols later became more widely adopted in the rest of the world. I think cheaper and more reliable testing will help drive higher intra-African volumes. I think also you're seeing a silver lining in countries that have looked inward and regionally, and they have seen faster recovery. Ghana, for example, is potentially seeing actual growth in domestic air travel numbers for 2021 versus 2019, all driven through private sector airlines. Kenya is seeing a growth in new domestic routes. South Africa has seen new private sector players enter the market to fill the void that South African and Mango left. So there's a definite upside for those markets that are able to be agile and where government policies are aligned towards encouraging innovation and growth through private sector and independent players.